Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode on the Planeswalker Eredean channel. Today, I wanted to do something a little different. I thought it'd be kind of fun. So today, I built a deck, basically. It's a Bant deck for allies, and this was kind of in hype for Battle for Zendikar. So this is a mostly budget deck that I threw together with stuff I already have. And I thought this was the best way to kind of show it and kind of talk about it. So I thought this would be something fun and new, and if you like it, let me know. So first we're going to just start off. This is a casual deck. It's definitely modern playable, I will say that. There's a few cards in here that are definitely a little pricey, but I have them. So if you want to replace them, I will tell you stuff that is very good to replace them with. So first we're going to start out with Hada Freeblade. Now, Hada Freeblade is basically, and I also want to mention this is a pretty much aggro deck. This is based, most of the time people leave you alone when you're playing this in like a multiplayer environment. I've noticed people leave me alone when I'm building this stuff up because there's a lot of just, putting counters on stuff, gaining life, and it's kind of defensive, not really too attacky, but I have a weird number of lands for the color pie, but I'll get to that. You might notice, but I will get to that. So it is mostly white, as you can see, which the way I like allies, that's just the way I like allies is mostly white. Green and blue splashed in. Red and black, oh, great allies as well, but I like my my Bant allies, basically. I also really love my Naya allies. My Naya allies are awesome too. I might build a deck around that too. If you want more of this kind of stuff, I might do some more. So we'll definitely be doing stuff like that. So Hada Freeblade is pretty much your ideal one-drop in allies. So he is a 1-cost, 1 white, just a 1 white, 0/1 technically. And whenever he or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a 1/1 counter on him. So basically, when he enters the battlefield, he is a 1/2, which is really, really good. And even if you just have 4 of him and 1 planes in your hand, it works. It works. It really does, and it's great. And he just builds up and builds up, and he'll build up at, to be really strong at the end of the day. So the next one, and it's pretty much just going in alphabetical order because that's how tapped out, which is what I'm using tapped out to build this deck, or to show it to you basically. Harabaz Druid, 1 colorless and 1 green, and is your ideal 2-drop. Creature human druid ally is a 0/1 with tap, add X of any 1 color of your mana pool, where X is the number of allies you control. So right away when she comes in, if you had Hada Freeblade, or even just her, it's still really good. But if you have Hada Freeblade and her, Hada Freeblade goes to a 2/3, and she next turn taps for 2 of X mana, or 3 of X mana when you drop another ally, and then you could drop another ally. It's really insane. She is so important to your game, and that is why you want 4 of them in there. You want 4, and you want to make sure she stays on the board. So then your other ideal 2-drop, or even your, your 2-drop or your 3rd drop or stuff like that, is Kazandu Blademaster. So he's 2 whites for a creature human soldier ally, 1/1 first strike vigilance, which is already pretty freaking good as it is. But then he comes in and puts another counter on himself, and whenever another ally comes into the battlefield, he puts another counter on himself. So just coming in, he's a 2/2 with first strike vigilance for 2. It's insane. So just as he is, and he's a soldier subtype as well, so he really works in human, soldiers, or ally tribal decks. He's really good. He is just that good. I mean, if you run 4 of him in any weenie deck, you won't be disappointed. He is just that good. To me, at least, that first strike vigilance is so powerful. So he comes in, he gets big, and he, defends. He attacks and defends. That's his whole point, but he will save you a lot of damage. and he will deal a lot of damage. Jawari Shapeshifter is the perfect clone. So she clones any ally creature on the battlefield, which, you're probably the only person running allies, but nonetheless, you have a lot of really good stuff to clone with, especially once Kazandu or Hada Freeblade get really big. You just got another 2-drop that's really big and makes your other guys really big. So she's really good. Just a fantastic drop. Next you have Ondu Cleric, which is 1 white and 1 colorless for a core cleric ally who is a 1/1, and whenever he or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to the number of allies you control. And this is basically the reason I run Swords to Plowshares, because you won't really worry about the life gain battle or the life battle. Not that life gain is amazing in particular, but Ondu Cleric basically makes it so you will gain an insane amount of life just every turn, and it is bonkers how much you will gain with him. Basically, he's a Soul Sister. If you're playing allies, he's Soul Sisters on crack, right? So he's late game viable, but he's still early game okay. But what's really important is to use him to set off your other allies mostly. He is not like your bomb, or for any means, he's not your bomb. He keeps you alive, and he sets off your other allies. He's good as a 4-of, but if you want to run 2 of him, 3 of him, even just 1 of him, it's not a bad choice. He's not essential to your plan, but he does keep you alive, which is nice. Next, I'm going to go to Seagate Loremaster, who is a 1 blue, 4 colorless Merfolk Wizard ally who is a 1/3 and tap draw a card for each ally you control. Now, this card is very important and dangerous at the same time for your deck, because you can really easily mill yourself with this. I mean, easily. If you have enough allies on the battlefield, especially for a 5 cost, if you're not dropping him really early with Harabaz Druid, or even getting him on that 5th turn, if you're getting him late game, you might mill yourself, which is a problem. But you also use him. One of the biggest problems with allies is that you have too many allies on the battlefield, and then you have nothing left in your hand. You have all this mana that Harabaz Druid's making, right? Just make a lot of mana, but you have nothing left in your hand because you used it all to cast allies really quickly. Well, Seagate Loremaster basically is one of the best ways to deal with that, because he's an ally. You can have other ways of doing that. Other card draw is perfectly fine, but I really like his repeated effect. I really wish it was like, you may draw X amount of cards for how many, I don't know. But you can really easily mill yourself, unfortunately, because there's no May clause in there. You have to draw for every ally you control, you have to draw that many cards, which can be a problem, but can be a lifesaver at the same time. So I run 2 of him only because I want to see him once. I don't want to see him twice. You don't want to see him twice. You really don't. But if you do, it's not a big deal, because he's still an ally, right? And he's still going to trigger all your stuff. So it's not a big deal. It just kind of sucks. So I'm not going to say it's a win condition, but one of your best... I'm going to say it just win condition is Turn Timber Ranger. Which he is 2 green, 3 colorless for an Elf Scout ally. He's a 2/2. Whenever Turn Timber Ranger or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on Turn Timber Ranger. Alright, so this guy gets big really fast. So when he comes in, he's a 3/3. For 5 is kind of a lot, but you do know that he comes in with a wolf. So he's a 3 and a 2/2. So he comes in with the power that, he comes in with 5 power, 5 toughness, basically. Separating that into 2 different creatures can be both very good and very bad at the same time. But to me, it is very worth... there's not really a big downside to it. The second thing to note is that, obviously the green wolf it's just a wolf. It's not an ally, so it's not going to trigger anything. But he puts out a lot of wolves. And that is one of the great things about this one is that when he's putting out a lot of wolves, he is, you're getting a lot of different damage spread out instead of just like on himself where, he might be a 15-15, but your opponent has like 4 sapperlings and he's just going to chump block you every time. One of the good ones is to put in here that I didn't even put in my maybe board was, it's the ally with trample, because that's another good way to like finish off your opponent. But he's very expensive, very mana intensive, so he's better in like a white-green deck or green-blue, green-red, or if you want to take out some stuff, I do suggest removing like Undo Cleric, because it's worth it. Even though Undo Cleric is your cheap thing, remove 2 of those, put in the trample. It's okay. So either way, and there is the other one that is green that's still really good as well that I didn't put in here, but nonetheless, we'll keep on going. Talus Paladin, another really good one. For 1 white, 3 colorless, he is a human knight ally who is a 2/3, and whenever Talus Paladin or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, you may have allies you control gain lifelink until end of turn, and you may put a 1/1 counter on Talus Paladin. So as he comes in, he's a 3/4 for 4, which is pretty decent, with basically lifelink. He comes in and gives your guys lifelink. And then every time somebody else comes in, you get lifelink, which is very good value. And he's just a nice support. That's why I run 2 of him. I don't suggest running any more than 2 of him. He's a great card, but he's not like your finisher or anything. He's just really good support. Pretty much your big finisher is Kabira Evangel. 1 white, 2 colorless, human cleric ally. Whenever Kabira Evangel or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, you may choose a color. If you do, allies you control gain protection from the chosen color until end of turn. He's a 2/3. So pretty decent for 3 mana. He is bolt bait. He does have that perfect lightning bolt body, but he's still very good, and when you bring him in and your opponent's running red, you should probably choose red. But nonetheless, when he comes in, he finishes the game. You pick whatever chosen color your opponent or opponents are running, and you are basically unblockable until end of turn. If your opponent has, 1 green and 1 black creature, then you put down another ally. You got to prepare for these kind of things with this guy. You got to work around him, but when you do work around him, he ends you the game. Another good way to do this is using Jawari Shapeshifter on Evangel. So basically you get the 1 from Evangel, and then you get Jawari Shapeshifter. Jawari Shapeshifter triggers the first Evangel, and then Jawari Shapeshifter triggers itself as an Evangel. So that's another good way to do it. Or, if you drop Evangel, then Shapeshifter, same turn, then you got 3 different colors you can be protected from. So really, really good way to finish the game. Enchantment, Descendant's Path, 1 green, 2 colorless, is an enchantment from good old Avacyn Restored. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card that shares a creature type with a creature you control, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Otherwise, put that card on the bottom of your library. I run 2 of these because you don't want to see too many of these, because you're going to... while it's great to put more allies onto the battlefield, you start losing out on your swords, your Join the Ranks, your Ghostway, or any of your lands when you might be a little mana dry. But it's still a great one to start getting allies out there for free, which is okay. I mean, it's great, don't get me wrong, but if you want to replace this one, this is a okay one to replace for something on the maybe board, which I'll get to. There's a lot of good stuff on the maybe board that you can replace it with. So land, I have a Flooded Strand, and I just use that in there to get my whites or blues, depending on what I need. Usually you get the plains, because you have a lot of plain stuff in here. Sometimes you get the blues, but once you have Arabaz Druid out, and she comes out so often that I don't have the worry about it. I might treat this a bit differently if I didn't feel Arabaz Druid was, as good as she is and as reliable as she is. Don't become as reliant on her, though. If you feel that you're too reliant on her and your opponents are killing her, you definitely want to add switch forests out for a few plains for sure. Definitely add the plains in there. Alright, so I put 4 forests in there because I really want the mana for Arabaz Druid and Turn Timber and Descendant's Path. Descendant's Path is one really, really important one to get that mana for, to make sure you have that forest. Gavany Township is another one that's important to have that green mana out for. So you want that green or white mana out because you want to put tokens, or you have a bunch of excess mana a lot of the time with this deck with Arabaz Druid, and you want to just use Gavany Township to beef up your characters. It beefs up Arabaz Druid, it beefs up everything. So it's a really great way to make even your mana dork useful, or aggro, I suppose. So really great card to run. You might even want to consider running more than one. It's a very good card to run more of if you want to replace like Hollowed Fountain or Temple Garden. That's a great idea. I don't blame you at all. So the next thing I'm moving on to is Hallowed Fountain, and this is the one I play just to make sure I mana fix on the white-blue, because it's really important to have the white. 3 islands, because obviously blue isn't your most important color. You want to make sure you have any blue at any time for Seagate Lore Master or Jawari Shapeshifter, but it's not the most important one. It is still very important. Seaside plains. 4 plains. Pretty much everything else makes white mana in some way, so just 4 plains is good, but you still want those 4 plains, basically. Seaside Citadel, I run 4 of because it is the Bant land, basically. I know a lot of people don't like the enter the battlefield tap thing, so, feel free to replace it with anything you like, but I like Seaside Citadel. Temple Garden, basically, same thing with Hollowed Fountain, only it mana fixes to white-green, which is a little bit more important than the white-blue. I would even suggest, replacing Flooded Strand with the white-green version, which is Wooded Foothills, I believe. So Ghostway, I love this instant. This instant saves your allies from board wipes, exiles, anything. So it's a 1 white, 2 colorless. For an instant, remove each creature you control from the game. Return those creatures to play under the owner's control at the end of turn. So one thing you gotta run into sometimes with allies is people want to wipe your board, or people want to, people just want to destroy your board or destroy your one guy or something like that. So you want to use this. Well, it's a little bit pricey, as you can see, $10. I only have 2, at all, I only have 2. But 2 are so freaking good in this. If you don't want to run this, I don't blame you. There's other great ones to run. You can choose Cloud Shift, which I have in the sideboard, which just does the 1, but it does its job. Another thing to note, though, with Ghostway is, your wolves will die, basically, because they don't exist anymore once they're exiled, basically. When they're removed from play, they're gone, but it triggers everything at once. Which is bonkers insane. So you're gaining, a huge amount of life from Ondu Cleric. You're putting a shitload of counters on Kazandu and Hada and Turn Timber, and you're making all those wolves back up. You're probably going to have more, well, you might not, probably not going to have more wolves, and then suddenly Kabira Invigel or something triggers, and you're protected from everything. So it's a really, really good card. Join the ranks. 1 white, 3 colorless. Instant. Put 2 1/1 white soldier ally creature tokens onto the battlefield. Making allies at instant speed is very important. I might even run 4 of these because it's not a bad thing to have this in your hand whatsoever. I mean, if you want to get rid of the Ghostways and put 4 join the ranks, I wouldn't blame you. You know, I mean, look at the price difference. You got 15 cents to $10. Go ahead, dude. I believe this is definitely worth it. I have a bunch of Join the Ranks because I like making ally decks. Join the Ranks is a very, very good card. It hits your Ondu Cleric if you're really that bothered about it. Turn Timber Rager. It creates counters for all these on your opponent's turn, or it gives you protection on your opponent's turn. So your opponent's about to Doomblade your guy. Oh no! Well, you join the ranks. Evangel triggers. Suddenly it fizzles. It's really great. Sword to Plowshire. This card I ran over like Path to Exile or anything because the life battle you'll have between your opponent isn't anywhere near like the land battle. You don't always have the land battle as being more important, but in this case it really is, I think, with allies, because you want to stay ahead of your opponent land wise. Health wise, I mean, you can hit him hard with Hada Freeblade and Kazandu and Turn Timber, and you're not even gonna remember that you swordsed. That's just my opinion and when I run swords over like Path or anything like that. So I run 3 of those. It's just a really good one for the deck. They are, about $3, so that's probably be your most pricey thing if you like cut really just Ghostway, I think, and the lands. The lands, you can mix and match however you'd like, in my opinion, because lands are important, but you're not going to cry that you don't have Temple Garden, that you have Selenisa Guildgate instead. Really go ahead and run Selenisa Guildgate. You won't notice a big difference. You'll probably notice a difference sometimes, and you'll be like, dang, but, this deck can be really, really cheap when you want it to be, with, like, swords being your cheapest thing. So in my sideboard, I have 4 Cloud Shifts, because it's a really good thing to, switch out for, like, Descendant's Path, or say a couple Ondu Clerics, and just put Cloud Shift in there so you can kind of get that Kabira Evangel working more. Garruk Collar of Beasts, I found I had a really hard time. When I first built a ally deck, I built a Selenisa ally deck, and I used I couldn't figure out a really, really good way other than Descendant's Path to get more allies into my hand. This doesn't get it into your hand, it gets it on the battlefield. So I couldn't figure out a way to get more allies into my hand a lot faster. Garruk did that really well. He does it really well. Still. I still run him in my Selenisa allies deck. He's really good. That +1 review. Okay, so I should probably say the other things. He's 2 green, 4 colorless for Planeswalker Garruk. He's got 4 loyalty counters coming in, and his +1 is reveal the top 5 cards of your library. Put all creature cards revealed this way into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. -3, you may put a green creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, and -7, you get an emblem with whenever you cast a creature spell, you may search your library for a creature card, put it on the battlefield, and shuffle your library. So all really, really good things, especially in allies decks. The allies have really big green creatures. I mean, the other one is just as expensive as Turn Timber Rager, other than the white or the colorless green one. But if you want to run him in a Naya deck, it works really well too, because red has more mana intensive allies. Or maybe you want to put something else in there, and suddenly he's hitting the battlefield too. But that +1, you reveal the top 5 cards of your library, and you're probably going to see a lot of allies. So you get all, let's say you get 3 out of the 5. So you just put 3 allies into your hand. And you can probably play that with that Harabaz Druid. Chances are that one of those 3 is a Harabaz Druid to keep you playing other Harabaz Druids. So he's a really good one to sideboard or not put in your deck at all if you want to trade out like Descendant's Path or Ghostway. He is really good. Halimar Excavator. 1 blue for 1 colorless. He is a 1/3 human wizard ally. Whenever he enters the battlefield or any other ally, target player puts the top X cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard, where X is the number of allies you control. So this guy is your alt-win condition. Because not always, sometimes people are getting way too much life, or there's just a lot of weird ways that allies can get hosed, and he is your way of dealing with that. He mills your opponents to death. Using him in combination with any of the allies obviously works. With Descendant's Path, he can mill 1 for free, or, mill a bunch for free, because you're going to put allies in like crazy, and say, here's, not an amazing combo, but you Seagate Loremaster most of your deck, if not all your deck, because it's totally possible. But you Seagate Loremaster, and then you drop a bunch of allies because you have the Druid, ramping you mana, and then, you probably dropped Halimar Excavator first, so you drop, even just a Jawari Shapeshifter. You have Harabaz Druid, Jawari Shapeshifter, and Halimar. So you mill 2, then you mill 3, and then you just keep milling, and it's insane, basically. I'm not gonna go into the math of it, but the mill will be absolutely insane, especially if you drop with Ghostway or even join the ranks. It's insane the amount of mills you can do. I'm not a big mill player, but I know that I need an alt-win condition in this deck sometimes, so he is in my sideboard. Oblivion Ring is just a really great removal spell. It's a good bonus that I put in here just in case. Reprisal, another great removal. Sometimes allies do have, in early game or, mid-game, dealing with really big, nasty creatures. Frost Giant, Inferno Giant, not really Inferno Titan. Inferno Titan's pretty much the only one, other than maybe Grave Titan, I guess. Stuff like that. Dragons, sometimes dragons, are a little bit hard, like good old Balefire Dragon. Balefire Dragon will ruin your day, unless you reprisal him. Venser the Sojourner, 1 blue and 1 white and 3 colorless for a Planeswalker Venser. His +2 is exile target permanent you own. Return it to the battlefield under control at the beginning of your next end step. Sorry. -1 creatures are unblockable this turn. -8, you get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell. Exile target permanent. So he is a little bit expensive at $8. But I have like a couple of him from a dual deck, so I obviously have a bunch of him. But his +2, it really triggers those ETB effects. His -1 could be your, end game. You put him down, creatures are unblockable, end game. Honestly, I'm considering why I didn't put him in right now. I'm like, wow, why do I not have him in my deck right now? But yeah, he is great in the sideboard. He is great in the regular deck. If you want to drop Ghostway, he's a really good one to drop for it. All right, now moving on to Maybe Board, we're gonna just talk real quick about some of the things you can do. So Brago, King Eternal, it's kind of like Ghostway, only just on your turn, and he can make those crazy ETB effects go off. Breeding Pool, just like Temple Garden or Hallowed Fountain, if you want to run that. It's a really good way to get your stuff. Cavern of Souls is a fucking expensive card, but is absolutely amazing for any tribal. So, it makes you a lot of mana of any color. So that's really freaking cool. Conjurer's Closet, basically like Venser, it brings in your guys over and over. Bring them in. Enter the battlefield effect. Enter the battlefield effect. Enter the battlefield effect. So stuff like that. Death or Glory. It's a really good way to, if you're getting killed a lot, if you see your allies, this is a really fun way, for me at least, to bring your allies back. So it's a one. You basically, your opponent, you put your graveyard into 2 piles. Your opponent decides which one, and then you return all your creatures back into play that your opponent chooses, basically, of your 2 piles that you chose of. So you better make 2 good piles, or you're gonna be real disappointed. You're gonna be real disappointed. Gideon Jura, not amazing synergy with allies in particular, but he's got great synergy with Bant, and he does protect your guys, and he will help you swing for that end game, and he will destroy your opponent's really mean creature that he's been messing with you with. So Gideon is just a really good buffer. Consider him like removal / well, consider him mostly removal. Mirror Entity, the Changeling, it's really great early game or anything like that, and or really late game. I mean, if you want to Harabaz Druid into Mirror Entity, it's a great play. You get a lot of mana, and then you Mirror Entity, and then you swing with a bunch of 20/20s or something like that. It's a good idea. I put Oblivion Ring in there because Oblivion Ring is a really good, cheap exile, and I mean cheap as in like it's 30 cents on TCG, as you can see. So you can buy a bunch of them, basically. And it doesn't just exile creatures, it exiles permanents, which is very good. Return to the Ranks is a lot like Death or Glory, or only probably almost strictly better. You can convoke, and it brings back all your converted mana cost 2 creatures back to the battlefield. So, I mean, if we just look at our 2 or less, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 of our, well, not 5 of our creatures, but 5 of the cards we have as creatures will come back no matter what. So, you know, that's really just really good for this deck. If you want to put that in, I totally agree with you. Maybe just in the sideboard, or maybe you change out Ghostway. It's a really good one to change out for Ghostway. And then we have our infinite combo, known as Xenographed Turn Timber Ranger. So, 1 blue, 4 colorless, as Xenographed enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Each creature type you control is the chosen type in addition to its other types. So, basically, when your wolves from, let's go back to Turn Timber Ranger, when they come into the battlefield, they come in as wolf allies, which means it triggers Turn Timber Ranger, which means it makes wolf allies, which means it triggers Turn Timber Ranger, which makes it, you get where I'm going, and the important clause in Turn Timber Ranger where it says may, so you can basically make infinite wolves and then stop and say, I swing with infinite wolves in your face, and your opponent goes, well, shit. It's a very good combo. It's a little hard to pull off. People will kind of know what you're going for and won't let you pull it off most of the time, especially in group games, but it is a very fun combo, and if you want to play it, it is super fun. So if you enjoyed this deck, or if you think I need some tweaking, let me know. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you're psyched for Zendikar like I am. And as always, may you draw well and never concede.